Welcome to SewVeryEasy. My name is Laura, and today let's talk about the ruffling foot. If you do have a Bernina, that would be foot number 86, but you can get a ruffling foot for any machine. And I would have to say it's probably my favorite foot to watch it in action. There's definitely a lot going on with this foot, but it's very easy to install and use. We do need to put it into the machine, so the shaft is going to go here. This little U is going to go where the needle is, just like a walking foot. So it's this up and down motion with the fabric running through that makes this work. At the top, you will see these little notches, and each one of those notches will do something different. The first one has a number 1. And that means it's going to take a ruffle every single stitch. Just pick that up and move it. Now it's on a 6, which means it's going to take a ruffle every 6 stitches. So we're going to do 6 stitches, and then it's going to take a ruffle. 6 stitches and a ruffle. The same will go with that number 12, which means we're going to take a ruffle every 12th stitch. That very last one has a 0. And that means it's not going to take any ruffles at all. So if we're in between stitches or in between projects, we can just place that on the 0 and it's going to stitch regularly. There is a little screw in the back right there, and you can see that. That screw can be adjusted, and it's going to take the ruffles and make them really small or larger. So the foot's going to go up, and then as it comes down, you can see how it hits that screw. And then we'll push down. So we can adjust that screw. And that changes the depth of the pleats. If we turn the screw clockwise, it's going to make deeper pleats. If we go counterclockwise, it's going to make more shallow pleats. So it can make it look softer or harder, depending on what you want. We have a little fork on the bottom, and we have a little fork on the top. The fabric goes in between. So you're going to see that little fork on the bottom, and when we look at the inside, we're going to see that little fork moving right there. And that's pushing the fabric for us. So the fabric does need to go in between those layers. When we take another look at this, we do have all of these little openings. Well, those openings are designed for ribbons. So we can see where that ribbon would run through. And there's even an area for a very little ribbon. On the bottom, there are also little areas. Those are also designed to put fabric and ribbon inside. So for stitching a ruffle onto a piece of ribbon, you can see how that's going to keep it nice and straight for us. So once we break it down, we have how many ruffles we're going to make. The screw does how big. And we just need that fabric to go in between the layers. We have guides on the front and guides on the bottom. And that needle is going to go right in here. So it's put on the machine with that little U on the bar. And the first thing we're going to do is put fabric in between those layers. We also have a little guide on the side, so we can keep the fabric right up against that edge. But you can put that fabric anywhere you'd like. I have it set on the 1, so it's going to take a ruffle every single stitch. Put the foot down and just start sewing. And you're going to see that fork pushing in that fabric. So it made a little pleat or a little ruffle every single stitch. So let's lift this up and move it over to the number 6. And we're going to notice that we're going to do a pleat and then 6 stitches. So we have 6 stitches and a pleat, 6 stitches and a pleat. When we move it to the 12, we're going to have those 12 stitches in between. We can also layer up. For example, we can put some decorative pleats or ruffling on a quilt or a project. So fabric is going to go into the bottom. And whatever you want ruffled will go right in between. So if this was the quilt and you wanted to do some flowers or just a ruffled edge, you can do it here. So we're going to see this top piece ruffling, but the bottom will stay flat. And we can use ribbon or anything we want that goes in between. And we do have the guides at the top to help us. And we also have the guides at the bottom if we want the fabric to line up closer to this edge. So we have a guide on the side, a guide on the bottom, and guides on the top. So you can really see it gathering in that ribbon. We can see where all of that ribbon has been pleated. That fabric has been stitched on. And here's that area where we've had 12 stitches in between. So if we adjusted that stitch length, it would be bigger or smaller in between those 12. We have the 6 stitches in between and the no stitches in between. And we can still adjust that little screw if we want to change it even more. So the ruffling foot might look complicated, but it's really easy when we break it down. We can decide how often we want the ruffles. Do we want big ruffles or small ruffles? We have guides that are going to guide us and keep that fabric straight. Are we going to ruffle just the fabric by itself or use the added bonus of ruffling right on top of the fabric that we want to do? And of course, we can still change the stitch length on our sewing machine. And I just love watching this ruffle away. I do hope you give the ruffling foot a try. It really is a lot of fun. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe and come on back. Let's see what we're talking about next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.